All right, excellent afternoon to all those who are watching me across the states in Nigeria, whether it is by being voted or being appointed or being the voter or even being an artisan. There is a contribution or quota everybody owes his fatherland, and in our individual respective offices, we can deliver our role and play our part towards nation building. Again, I say welcome to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. I remain your convener, your chief host, Kike Atanda-Owo. I think it's important for us to hear what On This Day in History segment has for us. When I return, I give my submission. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with me. My takeaway from On This Day initial segment is just the Aba Women's War of 1929 that reflects the enduring power of collective action against oppression, reminding us today of the crucial role women play in driving societal change and advocating for equality in Nigeria. Women are still playing that role. Society needs to accept the fact that effective transformation can be achieved by realizing that the power of women has come to stay. I think that's my takeaway from On This Day initial segment today. And it's time for us to get a quick message from my sponsors, those who have put me on this platform. Let's get a message from them. When I return, we'll dive straight to the topic at hand. Stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with us. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on November 4th swore in 7 newly appointed ministers following the confirmation of the Senate. This development marks a significant step in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration efforts to strengthen governance across multiple sectors. Among the new members of the cabinet are appointments which include the Office of Special Advisor to the President on Public Communication and Orientation, a vacancy made known after the exit of former advisor Ajuri Giladi, who have also been featured on this platform almost 7 times. But today, we are focusing on presidential cabinet that shakes the presidential cabinet that has sparked national interest, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu appointed Honorable Sunday Dare as the new Special Advisor on Public Communications and Orientation, a role aimed at strengthening the government's communication strategy and fostering transparency. We will have real talk around his vision for the role, how he plans to bridge the gap between government and the public, and of course the power of strategic communication to drive positive change for national development. But before we delve into real talk with my guest via Zoom link, I think it's important for me to play his profile, and when we return we will hear from him. Please stay with me. I'll be right back. All right, welcome to the show, Honorable Sunday Dari. It's a pleasure to have you on Real Talk with Kike's show today. How are you doing today, sir? Let's start from there.
Very well, and thank you for having me on your show today.
Many thanks for creating time to be here. We know that you're a very busy man, but let's dive straight to the topic at hand. First thing first, you have been part of this administration since the transitioning, or would I say transition of military era to civilian dispensation, serving under Tinubu as his chief of staff during his governorship tenure. Serving Nigeria for over 2 decades from one administration to the other. What does this administration have better than the previous one, as many people believe that it is still APC, there's nothing new, but Nigerians are in for continuous hardship and, would I say, economic uncertainty at the moment. But I must say congratulations for us, because I know the kind of value you will bring to the table.
Thank you very much, Madam Kike. And I think the question you have asked is central, is very critical, and deserves a detailed response. Let me say first that, why is this different? I think for the first time you have a president emerging from the rank and file of the progressives. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been a progressive whose feet is set in wet cement. He's never changed his philosophy or orientation of politics. And being a senator, being a governor, being a statesman and a party leader, he has treaded in the same waters, the waters of good governance and progressive politics. He has built young leaders from lawmakers to governors, and all of these through decades have impacted development at the state level, at the local government level, and now he has the opportunity as the commander-in-chief and the president of Nigeria to bring to bear all those good ideas, working with talented Nigerians and experienced technocrats to deliver for our country.
All right, many thanks.
Also, I must...
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Let me also say his renewed hope vision is a clear vision that argues for charting a critical path to success. And when you talk about critical decisions, about charting a critical path, you come against the headwinds of change. You have to deal with reforms. You have to find a way to fix issues that need fixing. And I think we're at a point in our history right now where this country is passing through the waters of development. That critical point in which we decide as a country whether to move forward and confront our demons, or rather to band-aid them and patch them up, and then pander to popular appeal, and then leave this country the way we met it, or even worse than we met it. But right now we have a leader who has the courage, demonstrably, that I will take those tough decisions, come what may, for the sake of our country.
That insight and that submission right there. When I asked you the first question, I said that, I know the value that you bring to fore because I've followed your work keenly. But your previous stint as a sports minister and administrator under Buhari's administration was significant of your dedication to this country in various capacity. Hence the reason why I emphasized on the value that you bring to fore. There were praises, and when I say critics, sometimes critics are okay for us to get better, or sometimes for us to get feedback. I look at critics from the angle of feedback. So criticism about your achievements in the office and praises that comes at the same time. How do you balance or justify your service with these different appraisals and judgment from Nigerians? And the reason why I'm asking that question is to be specific rather, is because some people like Segun Degbami, who have graced this platform a couple of times, feels that you could have managed the crisis in NFA better. So how do you balance the different judgment or criticism and appraisal that come from different quarters?
Well, public office comes with its criticisms, constructive in most parts, and otherwise. It also comes with praise, but it also comes with the challenge that you face and what you do to meet those challenges. And I think you speak about Segun Degbami. At my final send-off party, he spoke extensively, and he said this is the first time ever that a sports minister will be sent off and people will wish it could stay longer. I want to say that as sports minister, for me, it didn't matter what portfolio I held. It's about the experience you have. It's about your training. Whatever portfolio I'm given, I can handle it because I've had that experience. I've both the credentials that I need to bring to bear and the understanding of the dynamics of development in our country. But as sports minister, that's, for me, it's in the past tense. But let me say very clearly, I put down 2 or 3 major policies and documents this country never had. I managed the NFF like no one else had done before. I rebuilt the Nigerian Premier League, which was completely down from being number 21 in Africa. We're back to number 7 as one of the best Premier Leagues. From having 200 people in the stadium watching our football, our league, we're netting 250,000, 300,000. That's one. I put down the 10-year football master plan, which is ongoing right now. We never had anything like that before. I put down the national sports industry policy, which turns sports into business. So for me, whatever position I'm given, I come with a clear vision, not unafraid also to take those tough decisions that are necessary. And I think I left the sports industry well on the path of recovery. And for me, that is done. I wear a different hat right now, which is more important, an appointment by the president to help in public communication. Communication is critical. Let me tell you, Kike, we live in a VUCA world, V-U-C-A. And every president or every leader that understands that, whether in the private sector or public sector, is already on the path of success. VUCA world, we live in a world of communication that is vulnerable, that is uncertain, that is complex, that is also ambiguous. So you're dealing in that environment, and you're going to need people and a team that can communicate with the public. So we're moving from just the normal communication under this administration to what we refer to as strategic communication, that is deliberate, that is targeted, that is fact-based, and that is people-oriented. And that's the job I've been given by Mr. President, to work alongside a team that's already been in place. We believe that in this era of reforms, nothing is more important than timely and strategic communication to get the buy-in and the understanding of Nigerians that this time the sacrifices being made are necessary. If we refuse to take one stitch now, down the road, we'll be forced to take 9 stitches. This president believes this is the right time to take that singular dose or stitch that will set things right for our country, rather than patch it over with Band-Aid and force this country to take 9 stitches down the road.
Many thanks again for that elaborate submission, and of course for carrying us through, all your works and the impact that you've made thus far. But while you were speaking, going into the crux of your work as Special Advisor, Public Communications and Orientation to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it's crucial to know how your office plays out its role in terms of balance. Majority of Nigerians will expect that the interest of presidency in managing national matters will be more paramount to your office, in terms of satisfying the agitation of Nigeria, especially in the era of economic hardship. I would like your comment on that. And the reason why I'm bringing this conversation to fall is based on your last submission on my last question, because you coming on board as a member of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's cabinet. What do you say of the president to resolve or to ensure that his administration deliver on its mandate? Someone like me can vouch for all the works that you have done, but other people who I would say that have not followed your work keenly, do you think shaking the cabinet will lead a different state, or what's the question now? Maybe will lead a different state of the nation, or bring about development of the nation overall, in terms of just trying to shake the cabinet a little bit? I like the fact that 7 people were brought to fall. Will you say that maybe just shaking the cabinet a little bit might also help the situation at hand? What's your take on this?
Absolutely. That's a multiple barrel question. I will try to answer that question as faithfully as I can. But let me take off from the fact that change is a permanent feature. Any society and any human being and any country for that matter that does not like change will not develop. So we have seen a president who from the get-go set up a presidential review committee as an advisory to audit the work of the cabinet ministers, benchmarked against certain KPIs. And as he rolled out his programs and policies, there are feedbacks that came. And when the time came after 1 year to do a review, we worked with that team led by Special Advisor Adiza Bala. The president was clear. He said, I will rely on the review and the audit and the report of this team to decide what I'm going to do. I think it also takes a lot of courage and clear-sightedness for the president to decide that 18 months into my administration, I want to rejig. I want to make some adjustments. And I think that came about because he believes that there's a need to accentuate the success of his programs, but also to make some adjustments in the resource available for him to achieve his goals. What we have seen so far is an effort to sharpen the delivery and the impact of his programs and also reforms that come with it. And I think for me, governance is a continuum. Everyone comes to serve and moves on. It's always a privilege to serve, Mr. President, but a greater privilege to serve Nigerians in whatever capacity that we're given. That's one aspect of the question. Let me dwell on the changes we're facing. We've seen a president who signed on to the Renewed Hope agenda, 8-point agenda in the Renewed Hope, and has kept faith with that. Is it from health? Is it from housing? Is it from youth development? Is it from infrastructural development? We have indicators that speaks to meeting some of these items on the president's agenda. And I think that when the removal of subsidy came, when the reforms started in various sectors, as expected, reforms, when they happen, there are sacrifices, there are difficulties that come with it. But we see a president who lockstep has provided succor, has provided options as we make these changes so that Nigerians can adjust. And, we can speak to reforms in the oil sector and what it begets for our country and what it will beget in the future. We can talk about in terms of youth development. We talk about NELFON in terms of education. We talk about the CNG in terms of alternative energy to power our cars. And, I can go on and on. Now, when you look at all of this, you see a president who is adept at making sure that he comes up with ideas and solutions that can deal with the challenges we face as a country, but also one that applies himself to the sacrifices needed, the tough choices needed to move this country forward. Some might not agree with him, some will agree with him, but right now, he's the driver. This is a man that plays a premium on data, a man that plays a premium on intellectualism, a man that understands this country, perhaps the only living politician with the deepest and the widest network of Nigerian politicians, of Nigerian technocrats, of Nigerians in the academia who have engaged with him, who has tapped into their brains to get work done. And on a continuous basis, he is searching for and reaching out to Nigerians who can help bring solution to the challenges and the problems that we face as a country.
All right, many thanks for that elaborate submission right there. We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, the conversation will continue. Stay with me, I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. All right, glad to know you're still right there with us. In case you just joined the show, today's conversation is about the public service communication and accountability, and our discussion is centered around the new special advisor to the president and his Office of Public Communication and Orientation. I have had the pleasure of Real Talk with my guest, Honorable Sunday Dare, and we will be going into more critical discussion. But before then, I want to say many thanks, for coming on the show, for honoring my invitation, and of course for all that you've shared thus far. But let me quickly use this opportunity to open our phone lines. For those who are watching us, remember that you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio number 0811-888-88113. It will be showing on your screen right now. And of course, we're streaming live on Facebook, both on Real Talk with Kike platform and of course on Silverbird platform. Sir, again, I want to say many thanks for all that you've shared thus far. But you
Thank you.
You are as good as having President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on this show, as far as I'm concerned. That's the honest truth. So I must ask you, what exactly is the way forward for Nigerians from the plug of economic struggle and inflation that we are currently facing? Is there any clear-cut strategy to elevate Nigerians of this suffering?
Yes, I think that well, I must say first, there's no silver bullet. The process and the experience we're going through as a nation has been gone through by other nations. I know some people say, "Oh, don't compare us to other nations," but we live in a global village. The experiences of other nations are quite important. We learn from them. We implement some of their programs, and we also belong to global organizations like the United Nations, the WHO, etc., where experiences are shared in terms of data, and countries can benchmark about what they want to do. So there's a clear-cut strategy. First, I said the guiding document is of course, the Renewed Hope document. That's the guiding document for this administration, and it speaks to critical areas in terms of infrastructural development. It speaks to education. When you look at education, for instance, the NER Fund policy that was brought on, the very first of its kind. And you can see right now almost 100 institutions are benefiting. We have our students in the hundreds of thousands benefiting. It's never happened before. That's one. We also see the credit corp, the credit scheme, civil servants, 27,000 enrolled already, over 11,000 are already benefiting from that. It's never happened before. We are creating a credit system. Most advanced countries run a credit system, not a purely 100% cash system. Developed economies run on credit system. Now, we have somebody who is of clear thinking, trying to jump us into that credit system, plug us into that global economy. And then you look at what has been done by the Bank of Industry, 1 million naira to help small businesses, about 75,000 of them, 75 million. You look at the medium scale enterprises, over 50 billion going out to them. And then you can just drill down. Look at even this sectoral reform in the oil industry. Our local refining capacity is going up. Thank God Dangote is on stream. And as soon as we have Port Harcourt and others privatized, we're looking at in the next 2 years, Nigeria will be able to refine close to 65 to 70% of its local oil that is consumed in this country. Those are positive signs of reforms. And I think for every reform this president has embarked on, you can point at the short-term gain and also what the long-term expectation will be. Look at agriculture, the cultivation of 750,000 hectares to cultivate rice, wheat, and some of these critical crops that we consume in this country. That's foresight, isn't it? You look at also the fertilizer that's been shared to our farmers. That's an input that is consistent with productivity in the agricultural sector. That has been done. And I can go on and on. So if we settle down and we deal with the facts, and that is where our work is cut out, to make sure that we bring these facts into the public domain. We create an understanding, a deep understanding of what this administration is doing, to speak to the fact that these are the expected outcomes of this particular program. These are the impacts we have witnessed so far, with clear data and transparently. And also which will turn out to be in the very long run. And then through that, get the buy-in of the people. Let me see. No matter how sound your policy is on paper, if it's not effectively communicated to the people, you run the risk of being misunderstood. Now, we see a president who has invested heavily in media and communication in the last 3 or 4 decades, and who places a premium on making sure that his policies are clearly communicated and that he gets the buy-in of Nigerians. But also that the empathy he has for this period and this season that Nigerians are going through is reflected as much as possible in this program, so that people understand that this is a president that understands that Nigerians are going through certain difficulties, they're making sacrifices, And all of this will not be in vain because these programs are well thought out, these reforms are well thought out, and this president, I tell you, will stay the course.
All right, many thanks again. And I believe this will be my last question to you because of time. You know, you have given a brilliant submission on the intention and plans of Mr. President. For example, the country is divided on so many issues and policies, and one is one of the first decision of this administration, which is the removal of fuel subsidy. I cannot bring you to fall and not touch on it. As controversial as it is, do you think that that policy is right given our current circumstances? If right, if you think it's right, you know, do you think it was proper and the timely was properly communicated? Because I like when you were talking earlier, you said that it's one of the miscommunication that we have, that one might go through, is when communication is not properly run, and I quite agree with you. So what are your thoughts on this implementation? And secondly is the fact that you have started your tenure. I'm quite certain that Mr. President would have seen his reasons for having someone like you in the office, for a man of impact, a man of value, and a man of integrity. Besides that, what are your own official targets for that office with regards to service, accountability, and nation progress?
Well, I think every public office must be accountable. Whatever public office you hold it in public trust. And you, based on your position description, there are expectations or your job description. And I think for me, I come to be part of a team that has been in place to sharpen the public communication of this administration. Part of that is to increase the depth of knowledge of Nigerians about these programs, but also to help them to apply themselves to some of these programs and initiatives. That's one. Two, it's also important that at this point, we deal more with strategic communication beyond in different languages, in different formats in terms of audiovisuals and other communication materials, but also work through the MDAs to look at what are the gains of these reforms and then expose them to Nigerians. There are quite a number of opportunities under this administration, and Nigerians need to be exposed to these opportunities so that they can apply themselves onto it. It's just like in sports. If you don't join a race, you don't expect to win. If government makes available opportunities and initiatives, if you don't apply yourself to them, you cannot expect to feel the impact of that. And I think that most of these policies and initiatives are out there. We're going to make an effort working through the MDAs to make sure that in public domain, people know about what Mr. President is doing. People know about the 200 billion naira programs to help carry us through these very challenging times. This is a government that has invested close to 1.3 trillion in different programs that it has onboarded in about 7 different sectors. So what you have here is a government that is constantly at work. Let me say this. Several other countries have had to take tough decisions. And I know I've said this before. We often want to talk about Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore. But do we just read history and know that it took him slightly over 30 years of being in power to reform the economy of that country, to reform that country? 30 years plus. And then 10 years of critical re-engineering of that country. It wasn't easy, but he stayed the course. And eventually, he exited as a champion and a reference point for other leaders. We have a president that has been in power for 18 months. And the last time I checked, in terms of achievements, over 36 achievements that penetrates different sectors of our economy. That's one. Two, you have a leader that has come on stage with the courage never seen before. Some of the decisions he has taken, several leaders have passed, several presidents have passed through that and have decided to simply ignore taking those tough decisions, whether it's in the oil sector, whether it's in the energy sector, etc. And I think that we must recognize that the leader we have now is like no other. It's someone who is not in office for the public applause. It's someone who will not play to the gallery. It's someone who will stay the course and remain engaged with Nigeria. That I believe.
All right, many thanks for coming on the show today. It's been an interesting time with you on Real Talk with Kike. And I wish you the very best as you continue to navigate your career path. We wish you longevity in sparkling of health and, more importantly, wisdom to continue to deal with different human behaviors. I wish you the very best. Have a good afternoon, sir. We'll go on a quick break, and when I return, the conversation will continue. Stay with me. I'll be right back. This is Real Talk with Kike. All right, many thanks for staying with us. We're moving on to this last segment of the show, which is the trending story. The stories that bind us as Nigerians, as Africans. And the first trending story that caught my attention is that of the federal government that reverses age restriction policy on admission into varsity. And I think that this is where, this is the segment where I have, my own opinion that must be heard. And reading this news, a number of critical considerations came to my mind. And number one is policy stability. We need to be firm, on our policies as a country. This doesn't mean that there wouldn't be room for flexibility in some cases, but it helps proper planning and management by stakeholders such as educators, providers, the pupils, the parents, Number two is that I have no issues with the previous age restriction of 18 years and above, gaining admission into tertiary institution, because some of it, let's be honest, we keep it real on this platform, because of some of the advantages that has in terms of maturity of the pupils and proper development of the minds of the students before they go fully into the society, because the university is the first direct engagement of students with the society. So independently, if you ask me, without restriction and guidance of that university's, walls, I feel that they need to develop properly. Hence the reason why I never had issue with that restriction. However, there's a need to further critically look at the peculiarity of our nation and the population of that age bracket. I mean, the teenagers, this will make us accept the fact that Nigerians mature quickly, both biologically and physically, whether female or male. It is in the absolute interest of the government and parents to manage these expectations properly. So we don't want to compare ourselves to developed countries where there's a greater rigidity with regards to age limits for admissions into universities. So even in those countries, there are expectations. We have seen junior students break records and theme against admission to university at the age of 14 and go on to become young professors. I've brought those kind of conversations to this table. With that being said, as far as I'm concerned, I feel that it is not a reason to rush up the pupils unnecessarily by parents, because they want their children to graduate at the earliest stage. The children's mind, their IQ, the intelligence mind, the sense of judgment and public interaction too should also be of concern, or should be brought to fore. Nevertheless, I feel the policy and age restriction back to 16 years of admission is a welcome development, and students' admission should be done based on the peculiarities of children by their parents. Again, I emphasize the peculiarity of these children by their parents, and I think that's my takeaway from this trending story. The second trending story that also caught my attention is that of each Nigerian that owes an average of 619,500 as national debt. It's 134.3 trillion naira. And I'm saying to myself, where do we start from? Nigeria's national debt has been a topic of concern lately, with recent reports showing the country owes about 134.3 trillion naira, translating to about 619 or will I say 620 for every Nigerian. But before we sound alarm, let's take a moment, guys. Let's breathe in to look at how it compares to other countries have been brought to fall, how it can actually be a good thing if managed properly. For instance, the United States, the world's largest economy, has a national debt of over $33 trillion, around about 25 quadrillion. I don't know if that's the word to use that at the current exchange rate. So that means every American owes about $100,000, approximately maybe 77 million naira in national debts. Yet the U.S. economy continues to grow. Is somebody listening to me? The U.S. continues to grow its economy, leading the world in innovation and infrastructure. Japan is another example that I can bring to fore, with a debt to GDP ratio over 250%. Despite this, the Japanese economy remains one of the most advanced in the world. I wish I can bring so many examples to fall, because I just feel that, the debt isn't automatically bad, if you ask me. I saw a lot of reactions on social, and I'm saying that sometimes we just need to, take a step back and do the math and do the calculation and come up with solutions. What matters is how it is used. If Nigerians invest its debt in infrastructure, in education, in healthcare, and technology, it can unlock opportunities for economic growth and job creation, just like the US and Japan that have used as an illustration. Nigeria can use debt to build a better future for its people, for the unborn generation. The key is to ensure that its borrowing is directed at projects that yield long-term returns, with strategic investments, better management, and increased focus on economic diversification. So Nigeria's national debt can become a tool for growth, if you ask me, not a burden that we all are looking at it from. The important thing is transparency, accountability, just like my guests today have emphasized on. Every leader must be accountable for their actions and ensure that the borrowed funds are spent wisely. I feel that's my take on this second trend. Is I think we need to just sit back and do the math and look for how we can better our economy and nation at large. And the last trending story that caught my attention is that of the military that confirms the emergency of new terror group in Northwest. This was one of the topics I wanted to take today, in terms of the insecurity, the insurgency that is coming up, and the recent emergency of this new terror group known as Lokarawas, in Nigeria's northwestern states of Sokoto and Kebbi, has raised alarm across, the country. This group, with affiliations to terror network in Sahel region, particularly from Mali and Niger, has intensified insecurity in the northwest, following the recent coups in neighboring countries, including, Niger. I feel that Nigeria's military cooperation with these nations are weakening countries or creating gaps in securities with groups like these Lokarawas are quick to exploit. So the rise of this group illustrates how regions or regional instability directly impacts Nigeria's insecurity landscape, if you ask me. The breakdown of cross-borders military coordination has allowed these militants to intrude, or will I say invade, Nigeria's borders, underscoring the need for a proactive, multi-layered approach to national security. In addition to the broader patrols, Nigeria must focus on fostering, intelligence sharing agreements and rebuilding alliances with regional partners, and all of that. Again, what am I bringing to fall again? I think additionally, the government should invest in advanced surveillance technology to monitor these increasingly porous borders and detect early warning signs of insurgent activities, because addressing the root cause of militants is equally crucial. Persistent poverty, unemployment, lack of education in the Northwest makes young people vulnerable to recruitment of terror groups. The government should initiate programs aimed at creating economic opportunities in these regions, including vocational training for small businesses, by addressing local grievances. The government can also weaken the appeal of these terror groups with all of this that I've shared, because no matter how much you want to address all of this issue, it still falls back to poverty mentality. So it's encouraging to note that the armed forces of Nigeria are already making efforts to contain this Lokarawas group. However, this response must be sustained and supported by a coordinated approach involving both federal and local governments. Nigeria has successfully combated insurgency in the past, but the ongoing challenges posed by these groups, requires adaptable strategies. Let me use the word that my guests have used today, because, strategic communication is key. strong regional cooperation and policies that prioritizes the security and economic welfare of Nigeria's vulnerables in this region is very crucial. I don't know what else to add to it more than this, but I think this is where I draw the curtains of the show till I believe we've had another edition of Real Talk with Kike, another interesting edition of Real Talk with Kike, and I want to say courtesy our resourceful guest, Honorable Sunday Dare. Like I said earlier, I wish him the very best as he continues to navigate, his career path. And I think I want to thank many of our callers who were trying to call in. Unfortunately, the network is a bit erratic, and of course, I've gotten feedbacks that one of the Facebook page will be having connection with it. Everything will be sorted out before Thursday, and I want to wish you the very best. Please, keep safe and be kind to one another. My name remains Kike Atanda-Owo. Abati. Bye now.